JB, we've got a good new addition to our set right now. I think.
Yeah, I do think so.
Probably the newest thing on this set right now, because this guy is 39 years old and holding.
Yeah. Coach
Giancola of this great school of Montclair. You can see the backdrop. Thank you for having us, first off.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And, Coach, you are the winningest active Division III coach. A lot of people don't realize here in Montclair that's your title right now.
256, yeah.
So tell me, what's your most memorable win out of that batch?
We've had a couple over the years. I think the most exciting, memorable one was right here. We were playing Brockport from upstate New York. And we were going back and forth, and game was tied, overtime, still tied, and we intercepted a pass in the end zone, ran it back for 100 yards.
100 yards, wow.
100 yards, and won the game on that play, and everybody just went wild.
That's, you think of Brockport State's history, College Brockport now, they call themselves, Montclair State. There's some really rich history, JB, with these schools and the history of Division III East Region, or what we used to call the East Region.
Yeah.
He went to Hobart, I went to Union. That Hobart team, interesting team from upstate New York. What do you think of that team up there? Say anything you like.
We've only played them the one time. That was, I guess, 2 seasons ago, or was it last season? I don't even remember.
Kind of one and the same, right?
With the COVID. Yes, and they're a good football team. They did a lot of things. Their kicking game was very good. Their offense and defensive people were very good. They fooled us on a couple of plays, and we had a touchdown called back. We lost another one in the end zone. When it hit off our shoulder, we dropped it, and their kid dove for it, caught it, and they got another touchdown out of it on that run. So, but they earned it. They played well, and they earned the victory.
How old are you?
I'll be 75 in September.
And you are still as sharp as anybody out there, because you're remembering the most minute details of games like they're nothing. Now, does your family agree with us that your memory's good, or is it just a football thing, and then when it's all the family stuff, they're like, don't you remember, Dad?
Well, it's selective at times. It's selective at times, especially when they want me to do something and I'm not available because football. Okay, my wife understands. We've been married 52 years. So
wow, that's awesome.
She's been wonderful. She's been the person that runs the whole show. She allows me to coach. She allowed me to coach when I had my first job, and continued to allow me to do that while she was home raising the kids and doing all the shopping and writing the bills and taking care of all the issues that go on in a home. It couldn't have been done without her.
What's her name?
Judy.
Judy, thanks for letting us borrow him all these years, basically, for football. She probably is thinking it's more than just borrowing. You guys pretty much have full time with him. JB, what do you think here?
Well, Coach, I mean, you've obviously been, involved with this game for a long time, and the last 18 months is really kind of unprecedented. We haven't had a stoppage of a NCAA season like this since probably World War II. Honestly, it's been almost a lifetime. How have you, helped your players, kind of get through this very challenging time? Stopping from doing all the things that they love to do and just having to put everything on hold, and now kind of getting warmed back up again for a kickoff in about a week.
When this whole thing came down and told us and everyone else it's stopping, they were all very much disappointed. Very disappointed. But when it was time to say, okay, they're going to give us a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
A couple of games in the spring.
They didn't blink an eye when we said, hey guys, we can't practice, we have to take a test, we have to do that. Didn't flinch, did everything that was being asked of them to do with no, I don't want to do that, or why do we have to do that? They just went right with everything, and they're doing that now in camp. They're hungry. They're hungry, like most clubs. They're hungry to play. They want to play. Chiquille said it. They come out every day. They work hard at practice. When things don't go well, they're all for each other to pick it up and let's go, guys. Let's make sure we're doing this thing better and right. So we've had a pretty good camp with this, and we're anxious to play.
Later in this show, we're going to have defending Stagg Bowl champion coach Jeff Thorne, who's 49 years old, and we asked him a question about players sort of, taking football for granted until this happened. You at 75, did you take football for granted until this happened?
No, not really. It was my life.
Yeah.
It was something that I did right out of high school, right out of college, graduated. I taught mathematics for 10 years while I was still an assistant coach, and when I had the opportunity to come to Montclair State with the same head coach that I was the assistant with in high school, I said to my wife, I have an opportunity. What do you think? And she said, what do you think? I said, well, I'm interested. I'd like to maybe do this thing. She said, go ahead.
That's great.
That's awesome.
And I said, can we manage everything? She said, I'll work that out. You go ahead.
So your family basically gave you some good grounding as to why not to take football for granted in that situation. That's awesome.
She was just wonderful with it.
Well, this is our Region 4 through 6 show, technically. You guys faced Mount Union, I believe, at one point many moons ago. They're in Region 4. Your thoughts, is that team all as cracked up to be on the field from what you've seen? Is it one of the best all-around Division III teams year in and year out you've seen?
Well, we've had a chance to play them one time in the playoffs. And we were down 21-14. And we had a drive going. We were in the, I think the 19 or 20 yard line going into score. We fumbled. They recovered. And that was probably the end of our attempt to, overturn Mount Union at their home field. They're very good. They're well coached. They have everything in place that they need to be a quality program, not just a team, a quality program. So I tip my hat to them. They've earned it, and they deserve it for all the years that they've had that success.
We're going to talk about them and other teams that have had success out in those regions in this show, but we wish you success here. In how many seasons for you is this officially?
I don't know.
They're blended together right now.
I really don't count, but I don't know. I've been coaching since 1968. So you guys do the arithmetic, and you can figure that out.
I wasn't a math teacher.
3 years ago, basically, right? 2021. So basically, as long as you're married, just about, almost, by about a year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, good luck to you in this season 50+, we'll call it, and keep getting those wins.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us here, and you're watching Season 14 of In the Huddle. I could talk to Coach Giancola all day, every day about football and just life in general. That's great, and we really appreciate him being here with us here on the show.
75 years young and still at it, but we didn't catch it on film. But there was at one point when we were perched up here above the football stadium, and he's driving around, picking up tackling dummies and loading them into the car. I mean, this guy is something else. Lives and breathes football, and I'm excited for him and the Red Hawks that they get back at it again.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think, for him a relief. We don't even ask him the question of retirement. I've asked that to Coach Fredenberg how many times, but with Giancola, I just don't feel like it's anytime soon to the degree the school still wants him, and they do. Yeah. I mean, come on. He has made this program very strong again with his assistants.
Preseason number 2 pick in the conference. I mean, they're right in the conversation.
In that game on October 2nd against Salisbury Looms Large. But this show is about Regions 4 through 6, the rest of the country, that we will still be watching. We will not be able to give the coverage level we do with 1, 2, and 3 as much to these conferences. Yeah. Maybe a little bit more on 4 and the ASC.
Yeah, but you remember though when we got that was it Concordia, Wisconsin, that had that crazy win with a touchdown in the final.
No time left.
Hey, you guys put on shows like that, we will find it, and meaning this guy, will clip these and get them into the highlight reel. So we're excited to try to do our best as far as what we can with some of the Midwestern and basically West Coast teams, because obviously there's the SCIAC in Southern California, there's the Northwest Conference all the way up in Oregon and Washington. So, you haven't heard the last of In the Huddle out there in the far Midwest and the West Coast.
So we're going to show you the teams ranked in the top 25 from regions 4, 5, and 6 with the distinction of each here. There's a lot of them.
Familiar names, too.
Mount Unions, Heidelberg. We've got North Central, obviously.
Wisconsin Whitewater. There's,
Mary Hardin Baylor and Hardin Simmons.
Yep.
And so you look at this plethora of teams and strength, and you start to ask yourself, is there a balance of power issue that's kind of building with these regions compared to 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah, there might be, and I don't know if that was an intentional thing by the NCAA. I mean, like I've said before, I have a feeling that we'll see the impact of COVID come playoff time, because there's not going to be the same amount of funds to fly teams around the country. I think they're going to try and go back to that sort of regional pod setup.
Yep.
So don't be surprised, come November 18th or 20th, whatever that day is after week 11, when the bracket gets released, that we see some more of this regionalization.
Well, we're going to look at week 1 games, and a name that is missing from these slides on week 1 is North Central.
Yep.
They are not playing in week 1.
Nope.
But week 2.
They've got a good one.
And week 3.
Yeah, they sure do. A tough start for the defending Stagg Bowl champs with Aurora and
Wheaton.
The team that beat them.
In 2019, yes.
Yeah.
The only team that would beat them, and they still got into the playoffs. We talked to Coach Thorne. We intended to talk to Coach Thorne about football.
Yep.
And, getting back to the field as defending Stagg Bowl champions in 2019.
Learned a lot more than that.
Yeah, this became a life discussion as well,
Yeah.
for reasons that we did not know or foresee, and you'll see what I mean with this interview with Coach Thorne from North Central. Coach Thorne, it's been a while since I got to see you. I had a little bit of a funny looking jacket on when I got to talk to your team, your dad, in fact, and we hope that he's doing well and your entire family after this COVID experience. But you are the defending Stagg Bowl champions. Now, we had awarded a national team of the season in the spring, so we don't know exactly how to do this, but we will call you Stagg Bowl defending champions at the very least here. Congratulations to North Central and to you on that. And I mean, how does it feel going from that to what we experienced in March through what we're still technically going through right now? How's it been for North Central, and have you been able to kind of build on things in the meantime?
I mean, it's kind of been surreal. It's amazing that it's been, a year and 8 months since that time. December 20th, 2019 was a special day for North Central College, our football program, my family in particular, with my dad's history here. So it really has been, it's been strange. We have been able to use the time, I think, particularly our situation, having graduated the kind of quarterback that we had, it really gave us an opportunity to work with our young quarterbacks and, try to get them to a point where another year under their belt in the offense, they've got a higher level of understanding of what we do offensively. So I really think it's been a blessing in disguise in some ways for us, challenging in so many other ways. But just from a program development standpoint, our young guys learning our system and being ready for this 2021 season. We've used it, I think, as smartly as we could. We didn't play games in the spring. I wanted to protect our fifth-year seniors. We've got 14 of them that decided to come back, and most of them are starters. Or heavy contributors with special teams and with our second units. So I wanted to keep them healthy, and fortunately we were able to do that, and they're all back, and we're ready to go.
Coach, aside from maybe having the longest victory lap of a Stagg Bowl championship team, what do you feel as a coach? I mean, some of the pros and cons of being in a position where other teams that you're ultimately going to be defending your title against are getting a chance to play in the spring. Like you said, you've used it to develop some players and to keep your fifth years and other seniors, safe and on the sideline. What did you guys learn about your team going through this spring practice and maybe even in the fall?
I just think we learned a lot about the resiliency of our young men. I mean, what this group of guys has been through is really remarkable. And I know everybody's got their story of what they've endured through COVID and, families losing loved ones. In our program's case, we had some really tough stuff happen, and our guys have really come together like never before. We were a close group before, but it's been somewhat galvanizing, to be honest with you. We lost one of our student coaches, a student manager, who was a player his first year here and sustained a career-ending injury. I always hoped I'd never have to deal with this, but there was a suicide in our program in April, and that's really been challenging to make our way through. The mental health element of what we've all endured, and particularly young people. I've got, a son who's in his third year at Michigan State. I've got daughters. One just graduated from high school, a third who's a sophomore in high school, and I've witnessed firsthand as a dad what kind of toll this has taken on kids. And as a manager of young men, along with the rest of our coaching staff, it's just been staggering to see the impact that these lockdowns and everything we've gone through has had on young people. We've had more mental health issues in the last 8-9 months than the prior couple years combined, and we had several in those years. So just being mindful and being aware of how your players are doing, how they're occurring to you, how they're carrying themselves, body language. It's been really important for us to really stay dialed in and tuned in to those kinds of things, and really asking our players to do the same with each other and hold each other accountable to stand on top of your mental health and keeping track of each other. So I think, again, just bringing our group even closer than we were before is how I feel about our team right now.
And you look at a couple of years ago when we faced the Evan Hansen suicide situation and everything that his team went through and whatnot, and it just doesn't get any easier when you look at these situations. And as you said, COVID has just, I think, drawn more of that out. It's got to be such a relief to get back to the field and to sort of be in a position to go back to what you enjoy. I was at Union College earlier before this interview, and I was talking to one of the seniors, and it occurred to me that, I'm 45, he's 22-ish at this point, and there's this taking football for granted thing, I think, that may have happened before all this, that sort of now these 18 to 22-year-olds have faced a reality of that. And I have a feeling, and I'm curious as to your view of it, do you think that this is going to impassion people more in terms of football and what it means to them and everything? I look to you because I know your dad's taught you very well about the meaning of football over the years. You've been a great student of it, obviously. Look at what's happened in 2019. But kind of give us a little bit more on that from your perspective.
Yeah, the old saying, you don't know what you have until it's gone. There's so much to that. I think there's a lot of truth to that statement. But Frank, you mentioned you're 45. I'm 49. We have had the opportunity in our lifetimes to live through ebbs and flows, peaks and valleys, ups and downs, and we've learned how to navigate through those seasons of life. And so many of these young guys, excuse me, sorry about the phone. So many of these young people, they don't have that luxury of experience through difficulty to fall back on. And most of them, this is the worst thing they've had to endure. So, yeah, there's no question, especially our seniors. Our seniors are so hungry to get back out on that football field together. They've weathered the storm together. And most of our guys didn't take the year off where, hey, we're going to go do an internship, we're going to go make money for the year, and we'll just re-enroll. Our guys stayed. And so, again, that galvanizing effect, we talk all the time in our program that you build trust through shared experience. The more difficult that experience, the higher the level of trust is going to go. they've been through an awful lot together, and we had Navy SEALs come in again in April and take us through a couple of days of pretty intense training. That's the third time we've done that. So you layer all those things together, and our guys, honestly, I mean, you're hitting on a really important point. Our guys cannot wait to get on the field like never before, because they didn't get to do it a year ago. And you can practice against each other, and we got to do it like Division I does with pads this spring, but it's just not the same when you're not preparing for another opponent. The adrenaline's not the same, the intensity's not the same, and now we're at that point. We get to scrimmage tonight, and we'll have two more weeks come Saturday, and Aurora will be here, and that's going to be one heck of a challenging opponent. They had a great year a couple years ago. Don Beebe's done a tremendous job there. So our guys know, what lies ahead. And then week 2, we can't look past Aurora, but week 2 we got a big one with Wheaton College. So we're really excited about where we are right now and the opportunity that lies before us.
Yeah, and that game coming on the 20th anniversary of 9/11, which all of us here, kind of being contemporaries, can probably remember exactly where we were when that happened, and obviously that kind of national disaster had a obviously lower kind of number of casualties as what we've seen with COVID, but still has impacted the country at the time. We still see it today through I'm getting on an airplane tomorrow and going to be going through some stuff that 20 years ago really wasn't even a big deal. So, but you mentioned Aurora, and we've heard a lot about this Zimbelman character. We noticed a couple of his games in the springtime. A very talented quarterback, and certainly leave it to those ADs and those contracts they signed all those years back to welcome you back to your title defense against a potential Gallardi Trophy finalist. Shifting more to the football talk, how do you start preparing? And I haven't checked Aurora's schedule. I don't know if they have a game in week 1, and there's always pros and cons to does having a game help them or not having a game because there's tape or whatever. But how do you sort of approach this game, especially after such a long break?
Yeah, the Zimbelman kid is special. I mean, you guys nailed it with that first team preseason All-American label. He is really, really good. He's dynamic. He's athletic. He can make every throw. I mean, he can throw the field out from the opposite hash. At this level, that's unique. At any level, that's pretty good. And Coach Beebe's done such a great job, as I mentioned before. They're talented. They do open the week before with St. John's, and typically the biggest improvement you have throughout the season is between week 1 and week 2. So we really are going to have a huge challenge. That'll be our opener. Our bye week is week 1. So we're practicing hard and doing everything we can to be prepared, and we will have our hands full with that offense and that quarterback, and defensively, I'm sure they're going to give us everything we can handle too.
This is why we need more people in the huddle, Frank. I mean, how did I forget about Aurora playing St. John's in week 1? I mean, there's obviously like 100 other games going on, but that's probably one of the biggest games. I mean, aside from the one that you might be attending in Pennsylvania there, Frank. But boy.
Well, let me say this, though. It's interesting. Jim Catanzaro, who you got to know especially well after your title run, who was the chairman of the committee, admits that in 2019, you essentially were one of the last teams, if not the last team chosen, and you actually made him proud because I think he thought you belonged in there, and you got in there, and you stunned a lot of people. Maybe not yourselves, but a lot of other people out there in winning the title. But the reason you had to come in through Pool C was because of the loss to Wheaton, ultimately, among other questions and all the stats and everything else that come out. But the Wheaton loss obviously factored in largely as to why you needed to go in that route. You play them in week 2, or week 3 for us, week 2 for you. And if something bad happened against Aurora, you got to win your conference. You know that. And you've got to win your conference either way in a lot of your perspective, probably.
Yeah.
How does that game sit right now with you? Because technically it's your revenge game, but Wheaton kind of sitting there like, hey, we beat the ultimate national champion in 2019, and we don't get nearly the accolades we deserve. And they feel a little, I think, underwhelmed by the respect level they get right now.
Wheaton does?
I think so.
I'd be shocked because they were picked to win our conference. So, they're a great program. It's a great game every year. They play at a really, really high level. Their defense is as good as anybody in the country. When we went through the championship run, at the end of the day, Wheaton's defense was the best we faced all year. Delaware Valley, I think, would be a close second. I thought they were dynamic and really, really talented defensively. But every year, they've got great athletes. They can run. They've got size. They're unbelievably well coached. They're disciplined. It's going to be a huge challenge for us, but that's what you look forward to in this game. You don't look forward to the games that, you don't feel like it's going to be a highly contested game. These are the ones you get in the game for, to open with an Aurora, to follow that with Wheaton College, your biggest rival that you'll face all season long, playing for a trophy. That's why I go back to that idea with what we experienced in the year we had to train a young quarterback. I think that was beneficial for us because they would have been week 2 in 2020 as well, and we would have had a fall camp to get our quarterback, a brand new quarterback, ready to play at a really high level. To beat Wheaton, your quarterback's got to play at a high level. So,
let me flip this
huge
though.
Game right out of the gate.
Let me flip this though, because
Sure.
you brought it up, and I was actually going to hit this later too. But yeah, your conference actually put Wheaton on top. You're absolutely right. Have you used that as a motivator yourself? Because you're a defending national champion, essentially, at least through the Stagg Bowl Championship, and yet you're picked second, essentially, in your conference against Wheaton now. Have you used that as a motivating factor at all?
It's a good question, Frank. I'm not worried really what other people are thinking our conference or our conference and where our program is going to land in the conference. We've got to worry about ourselves and the standard that we expect, the standard our players expect to play to. And if we're doing that, then we feel like the other things will take care of itself. Our players, it wouldn't shock me at all if our players are looking at it and saying, wait a second, we won the national championship. But you got to take a step back, too, and look at it. Wheaton College has got a bunch of guys coming back, too, including the quarterback. It makes sense. I understand. I'm not bent out of shape about that in any way, shape, or form. We've got a job to do. Our players got to get ready to play. And if we play our best football, then I think we'll be happy where the chips fall.
So, not asking for any company secrets here, Coach. We had a chance to have Brock on the show a couple years ago, and Sparkle Man up there interviewed him, with the trophy on the field after the fact. You mentioned some these new quarterbacks without having to name a starter or anything like that. But, who are some of these new guys that we as D3 football fans should start to acquaint ourselves with your team?
Well, we brought our backup from the 2019 team. Jake Johnson is back. He's got a lot of experience in our offense and really understands it well. Athletic, not quite as big as Brock, but he's very athletic. And then we brought some young guys in. Luke Lanen is a young guy from Chatham-Glenwood High School here in Illinois. Was a 2-time All-State quarterback in high school that we're excited about. Very, very athletic. Was all conference and all region as a baseball player here in 2020 as well. We've got a transfer young man who just came in here in the fall, Alfonso Howard, a 1AA transfer. He had played at Eastern Kentucky and moved on to Prairie View before coming here. And another freshman from Michigan that we like a lot, Brennan Hayes from Hudsonville High School in Michigan. Joe Lovelace is back, and Eli Salem from East Lansing, Michigan, is with us. And so we've got a pretty crowded room. Unfortunately, one of our young guys has a labrum, so it's labrum issue. So it's been a really good competition through the spring and through fall. And when Aurora is here, I promise we'll have a quarterback behind center taking snaps.
I bet you will. It sounds like a nice problem to have, Coach.
Yeah, there's going to be someone back there.
Let me ask you one thing, though. Andrew Kaminsky, he was on the 2020 roster, whatever you want to call it. Is he on the 2021 roster? And what level of importance does he provide here in terms of getting any quarterback that doesn't have behind the North Central Center, experience?
Yeah.
What's his importance if he is there?
He is here. He's here, and he's better than ever. Andrew's special. You guys see his talent as a football player. We get to see his humanity and the person that he is. I mean, he's a better teammate than he is even a football player. And you hear that all the time about guys, but he really has been tremendous in terms of helping these young quarterbacks get comfortable. The ball is not always in the exact same spot as what maybe he's been accustomed to with Brock. They had such chemistry, but you'd never know it with him. If he's got to go down to catch a ball, he's not coming back upset with the throw not being perfect. He's, giving knuckles to the quarterback. Nice job. He's just a great, great, great teammate, great leader. He's back. Sharmore Clark is back. Beasley's back. We've got a lot of really good players back from that 2019 team, guys that really pressed the pause button on their life, and my gratitude and my admiration for those guys. I feel like I will feel a debt of gratitude to those guys for the rest of my life, because they've made our ability to, pursue another great season very, very possible. And they didn't have to do that. There's an investment involved. This isn't, you guys know, it's not Division I. They've got to pay to go to school. So there was a sacrifice involved in these guys coming back. So I love these guys. I loved them before, but it's at another level now with this group. They're special, and we just hope we can send them out in a way that's indicative of the sacrifices they've made.
One thing I want to say is when I get to do Stagg Bowl sideline coverage and whatnot, and you get to do the interviews beforehand, when I work alongside D3Football.com or with them or however you want to look at it, you get to see the student athletes, the players, kind of at a much less protected level. And getting to know Brock and getting to know Andrew last go around in 2019, and see how much they were characters off the field, because they were, absolutely. Had a good time, talking with them and everything, joking around and whatnot in the hotel lobby when we were doing all of our work and all that stuff. It was just good to see, as you called it, the humanity of the people involved in the event, and getting to know you and your family a little bit. It was just incredible. Brock's mom and family along the way as well. It was just a really great experience to get to know all of you in that. And, we will see if that is a repeat in Canton coming up soon. But one question for you, a lot of people are wondering, how's Brock doing? I'm sure you're in touch with him. And where is he at this point? I know the Niners thing didn't work out, but at the same time, I'm sure he's still gunning at it.
It's great. I appreciate you asking. He's doing great. Brock bounced around a little bit, ended up in Montreal with the Alouettes, and was in camp and was doing a great job. Had risen to third on their depth chart. They had let go of the other quarterbacks, and in their last scrimmage, he sustained a high ankle sprain that was going to keep him out for about 4 weeks. And they did bring another guy in with him out, and he got cut. So he came home. I don't know what the future holds for Brock, other than in the summertime, I'm going to make sure I get to play some golf with him again. He's a heck of a golfer. I think he's about a 5 handicap. So he's doing well. His family's doing well. Special guy that did things here that have never been done and led us to places we'd never been before. So we miss him. We love him, and wish him nothing but the best. But he's doing very, very well, and I appreciate you asking, Frank.
Well, that was, we expect you usually go 10 to 15 minutes maximum with interviews, but when we talked to him and that topic came up about the suicide that team faced, and the mental health issues that he's aware of as much as anybody right now, that was an opportunity, I think, to sort of have some real talk here about mental health and just what having football back can mean to the youth that depends on this game and rely on this game the way they do. I know you were pretty touched by that story.
Well, yeah, I mean, it definitely harkens back to a few years ago with the Evan Hansen situation.
Yes.
And it's just one of those things where, I know that there's all these different, the COVID protocols, and they're trying to keep players safe and all this type of thing. But at the end of the day, the effect on COVID is different for younger people than it is for guys our age and even especially older. And so I think the fact that obviously there still needs to be considerations, and the variants and all that are something to take seriously, but it's important for these kids. Let's face it, a lot of them are even my own kids' age. They, athletics and getting the opportunity to do the sports that they love, and let's face it, a lot of the players that are about to kick off here in a little while for this scrimmage. I mean, part of the reason they came to Montclair, football factored into it. I mean, obviously, maybe tuition costs and majors and all this other stuff is important.
Yes.
But when you're a young person, and you love a sport and you've been playing it since you were a little kid, I think that factors in too.
Week 2, we talked about North Central facing their challenge versus Aurora.
Oh.
Yep, that's week 3. Yep, you got it.
Yeah,
we'll get this straight.
These teams that start in week 2, man, come on. It's going to be worse when the NCAC starts in week 3. We're like, week 1 of the... Okay, anyway.
Well, anyway, here's one I want to highlight because I think there's a little bit of a grudge match forming in this game in week 2 in Region 6, ETBU versus Mary Hardin-Baylor.
Oh, yeah.
That was a close game in the spring and surprised a lot of people.
Yeah.
ETBU has obviously beefed up their roster, too, in the meantime, with Caleb Egan's there and company. Now, we'll see if they deliver or not. Obviously, players transitioning to the other teams, it can be interesting to see how it works out, ultimately, with a short period of time to learn the new offense. But I think the key to that game is seeing if Mary Hardin-Baylor has sort of evened out their offense and how ETBU's offense is going to respond. This could be a game, I know the defenses are both very good, but this could be a game that goes into the 40 versus 30 score very easily. And especially being so early in the season, I'm just curious to see what these teams look like in a very important ASC game.
Yeah, and by the time this broadcast, it'll be either a day or the day of the ETBU versus UW Platteville game. So we'll get a good chance to see, see the Tigers on a sort of a national scale on a Thursday night.
Yeah, it's a big game too.
Without too much other competition. It'll be one of the few games that it's on that evening, and so we'll get a good sense early on. Mary Hardin-Baylor, Simpson. I think they were picked 6th or 7th in their particular conference, so that's probably going to feel more like a preseason game.
The bigger test is game 2 for them.
Yeah, so I think if ETBU can get through that Platteville game unscathed, hopefully with a win and build up their confidence a little bit, especially when it's not easy to get wins over WIAC teams no matter who they are, that will be a marquee matchup, definitely one of the bigger ones of week 2.
So this is our last show in this collection, but we have a lot more coverage throughout the weekend. Again, I will be at FDU Florham when they host Merchant Marine Academy coming up on Friday, and that'll be a fun night game down there to see Jamie Robertson's first game as a head coach, and Coach Stoop is always coming into there. Remember, Robertson used to coach at Merchant Marine Academy under Stoop back when.
Kind of got his coaching stripes.
Yeah, a lot of love there, except when they're across the sideline from each other.
Absolutely.
And I wonder how it's going to feel for Toop to see a guy that he helped bring up in the coaching ranks like that and see him across the field like that.
Probably not the first time or the last time that'll happen for Coach Stoop. He's been at it for a little while.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, I'm sure he's excited, but he wants to get that win.
Oh, you think?
Just a little bit. The only other Region 4 sort of overlap game I want to throw out there, Frank, because we talked about this in our preseason show. W&J versus John Carroll.
Huge.
We'll probably take some flack if for some reason our number 14 team ends up losing to John Carroll, who's ranked higher than the presidents in the D3Football.com poll. So depending on which poll you believe, and who knows what poll is right at any point, rankings, whatever.
Yeah, things are tough right now.
You can throw them out the window once the kickoffs this weekend actually happen. But that's another big national game, in my opinion, because it'll tell you a lot about what's going on in the OAC. It'll tell you a lot about this president's team, which brings a huge senior class back of sort of 4th, 5th year guys. I know Coach Sirianni. He didn't have his old head coach, Larry Karras there to fire him up. They scrimmaged Mount Union. I mean, they're getting ready for this. This is a big deal.
Oh, it is, absolutely. And I'm curious to see how this game goes. You're absolutely right. We did show it on the screen earlier, but I'm glad you brought it up as one other thing to watch for. I'll be doing the coverage at Westminster on Saturday, and also Buffalo State hosting St. John Fisher. We didn't talk about that in our Region 2 show, but that could be an interesting game just to see who's who and what's what in the Liberty League and Empire 8 as teams that don't get the same level of marquee billing right now, but that might be deserving of some of it.
Yep.
So all through the weekend, you're going to get sick of us, folks. I mean, he and I, we're already sick of each other. Get the hell away.
He'll be in person, and I'll be
in Orlando. Yep.
Yep.
But the coverage, hopefully, that you begin to rely on from us will be front and center here coming up this weekend. So again, thanks for joining us for our 5 preseason shows, including this 5th one about regions 4 through 6. And we'll see you throughout the weekend, and then have a highlight show on the other side of the weekend where we talk about the week 1 action. Thanks for joining us.